Hello, and welcome to our annual Benton Community Foundation Supporter Appreciation event. I am Susan Poole, BCF Board Chair. I'm joined here today in the newly opened Benton County Historical Society Corvallis Museum with Bruce the Moose. Bruce, do you want to say hello? He's possibly consumed a fairly large meal and is too stuffed to greet you. We all know what a historic and unprecedented year it was. Words like quarantine, pandemic, social distancing are everyday language. Over the past months, many nonprofits have found uncertainty while seeing donations drop, some doors close, and reserves dwindle. And we have all become accustomed to meeting like this, virtually. Last year, when Benton Community Foundation announced a $50,000 matching grant from a remarkable donor to launch the COVID-19 Response Fund, my husband Bob and I were compelled to help meet that match. We knew that due to BCF's excellent reputation and organizational integrity, it was the obvious choice for our donation then and for future investments. Bob and I have great trust and respect in President and CEO Chris Kwaka and the BCF leadership team to make wise decisions, both in short-term crisis as well as long-term strategy. The Benton Community Foundation is your community foundation, and it's because of the foundation's work to foster community prosperity through partnerships that I choose to invest my time, expertise, and resources. I serve with an extremely talented and truly committed board. On behalf of the BCF Board of Directors, we say thank you to everyone joining us today.
Well, the South Benton Food Pantry was originally started through the church, and it was a food pantry that they had started, gosh, I want to say 35 years ago. We have a lot of families that we serve, and a lot of different families look very different. We have single people, seniors, couples. We have lots of people with lots of kids, a lot of great families. Well, Benton Community Foundation was very active in reaching out to agencies, to partner agencies and to former grantees. And I felt like they really understood what we needed to do, what we wanted to do. And it created the sense of not being so alone, and that there were people that were behind the scenes that were willing to give their all, put in their all, and let's make things work for the better of our community, because this is a tough time and we just need to get through it the best we can, and we couldn't have done it without their help.
Stone Soup is an organization that's been in Corvallis since 1982. Our mission has always been to feed the hungry, first of all, but to provide one free hot meal 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Well, gee, there is this COVID thing coming around, and we should get someone to tell us what's going to happen to all of us during the pandemic. I called Chris after that, Chris Kwaka of the Benton Community Foundation, and he has a background in emergency preparedness, which I didn't even really know about. But when I said we weren't prepared, that sent off, fireworks in Chris's mind. And so he said, wow, there really is going to be a lot of work to be done. And he immediately set out to have the Benton Community Foundation be a source of support for the not-for-profits and the service organizations in the community. In 2019, our total expenditure for the organization, including everything, was about $49,000, which is very little. And when the pandemic started, I decided that we needed to provide meals, and the only way that I could safely see to do that was to have them catered. Have a caterer prepare our food for us. So they did use our typical food sources of Lynn Benton Food Share and donated food, but that food went to Valley Catering, and they, for a sort of fixed price, did our cooking. And we also realized we needed takeout supplies, so that's quite a bit of expense. Normally we wash the dishes every day and use them again the next. And we also needed hand washing stations, so we worked hard to find and get hand washing stations at each meal site. And we didn't know what it was going to cost. So when it started in March, we budgeted for 4 months of catering and hoped that the pandemic would be over. And that just wasn't true. So our budget just kept growing, and we ended up with about $285,000 of expenses in 2020. We're so grateful to the Benton Community Foundation that they actually provided more than 10% of that budget. It made a big difference to us, and one thing that made a difference was that support came really early last spring, and that gave us the confidence to just take a leap and trust that we would find the money.
We Care is an organization that's been around since 1983, started by a group of churches and faith communities to fill a perceived need that people needed some assistance and they didn't qualify for a program, or the programs didn't have enough money. Well, I used to say we provide one-time financial service to residents of Benton County. COVID changed that. So Chris called kind of out of the blue and said they were working up this fund, and since we had a relationship before working with BCF, he thought that we would be a natural to receive some funds because he knew we could get funds out the door quickly because we meet every week to disperse funds. And I can tell you my initial reaction and then the board's reaction was, thank God, because we knew we were starting to see things percolate up, dollar demand. Again, the per person, per family needs had increased, and we certainly did not have the funds to meet the need, and quite frankly, we were a little scared. Saying no is not something we enjoy doing. Without the resource, there are people in our community in Benton County who would not have gotten the assistance they need, plain and simple, especially in the beginning. And then even later when we got additional funding from BCF. There are people we would have said no to paying their rent, keeping the water on, electricity, which has become a larger issue than I think it's ever been before with online learning and the threat to people not having electricity. We are prepared, and we certainly are not closing our doors, to ramp up this summer and fall, because the second half of this year is going to be a very busy year.
Yeah, so the Boys and Girls Club of Corvallis has been in place since 1971. As many know, it started out as a youth baseball program and eventually just kept evolving to meet the community's need. The Boys and Girls Club ended up connecting with Benton Community Foundation to help us fund our emergency child care program. So as you know, we all shut down in mid-March. Our organization decided that we were going to reopen our doors so that we would be available for those essential workers that had to go to their jobs to take care of the rest of us. So on April 1st, we opened up our doors. One of the biggest problems we had was funding, because we don't normally run for a 10.5-hour day. So I started looking for sources of funding from community partners and grants and individuals. And Chris stepped forward from Benton Community Foundation and told us that they were facilitating a process to get some funds moving into the community, that they had partnered with United Way so that together, you know, we and they could be stronger in helping affect impact. And so we put in a grant application and they helped us. They were one of our first funders in the door. What was so great great about that funding is for the first 3 months of the program, we didn't have to charge parents anything, which for these essential workers, as you know, they tend to be folks that are working just above minimum wage, and they clearly didn't budget for childcare costs in the middle of a school year. So being able to pass that gift along from Benton Community Foundation and individual donors was just fantastic. You know, knowing that Benton Community Foundation was aware of the Boys and Girls Club stepping into the challenge of taking on emergency child care and having those conversations with Chris about what we're doing, and you know, he'd call me and say, how can we help? You know, what can we do to help you deliver these services for our community partners? You know, that is just, it's more than inspiring. It sort of helps take a little bit of weight off of the shoulders to know that we didn't have to figure this out all on our own. And when we opened our doors, we had no idea how we were going to fund this, because it's double, triple the expense to run emergency childcare than it normally costs us to run our after-school programs. But you know, I knew that through partners, you know, with Benton Community Foundation, when they partnered with United Way and said, let's bring these sources together so that we can do more, it just let me kind of put that concern a little bit aside so that we could focus on making sure that, you know, my staff would be safe, our kids would be safe, you know, that we could focus on the protocols, and of course creating a really fun, positive, somewhat normal environment in the middle of a pandemic for not just the kids but for my staff, so that they knew every day when they got out of bed in this world of uncertainty that they had a place that they could come to that was certain, right? There was some normalcy, there was some predictability. And those funds from Benton Community Foundation were really just a major foundational part of us being able to come to work and take care of the things that we know how to do, knowing that the financial piece was, you know, being taken care of.
I've said it before, but I just can't say enough about the donors in Corvallis and the support that they give people.
Every time we give meals, the seniors are so appreciative. So I want to pass on the thank yous and the blessings to the donors that we receive when we're giving the meals or the boxes or delivering a box of food to one of the seniors' houses. They're just like, oh, thank you. And the donor generosity makes that possible. And the positive response and the gratitude we get from the seniors, it just makes both of us know that this was a mission that needed to be done.
I don't know who the donors are, and I just want to say thank you, because it is making a difference, and it will continue to make a difference.
You know, the word I hear a lot these days is gratitude, and I'm filled with gratitude, and I'm so grateful for people who have taken the step to make donations and that will continue to do so. The impact is very direct and it's very real, and truly a huge difference is made, not only for the family but for our community.
There is no way that our doors would have remained open. You know, our ability to focus on that safety component and make sure that kids are having just a really enriching, safe educational experience is a direct reflection of the contributions of individuals, of each person that has contributed into that fund. So, you know, thank you, it just isn't even enough to express what the impact has been from the generosity of this community.